Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're here on the shores of Norris Lake here in Tennessee. We're here for the Brandon Card High School and College Bass Open. I've been helping out by doing a little bit of emceeing for this event for the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 years or something like that. Really cool event. Get to hang out with a bunch of high school, college kids. And get to talk to them and just have a good time. It's a lot of fun. But since I'm sitting out here in the rain, and we've got this really cool vantage point where I'm kind of up on a hill here, I can't help but kind of analyze this little creek on Norris. Because, I'm a forever bass fisherman. I'm always just going to be thinking about bass fishing. So even as I'm sitting up here and we're setting up everything, I'm just looking at this creek and where I would fish and how I'd approach it. And figured that we'd talk a little bit about rock transitions today, because on lakes that are pretty much void of grass, and especially during this time of year, November, December, January, even into the end of the pre-spawn, I feel like rock transitions on a lot of these lakes are the most important type of structural element that you need to look for. And that's for a lot of different reasons. Really, this little transition right here keeps catching my eye. Okay, you've got this gravel, this kind of muddy gravel on the left, and then on the right, you can see it just has a very abrupt transition into chunky rock. Okay, and this is exactly the type of stuff that I'm looking for. Now, not all rock transitions are going to hold a lot of fish. Some of them are just not in a area that is going to be attractive to fish in general. But seeing as that we're in the back of this creek here, this creek arm, obviously there's a ramp, and so there's probably a lot of release fish here. In like September and October, the back of this creek probably had a bunch of shad in it. So once you get out to this deeper water where the shad are starting to make their way back, there's probably a ton of shad here on this 45-degree bank, this channel swing bank. And whenever you have that kind of structural element where the bait fish are kind of hanging around in that deeper water, that channel swing, and then you get something like this rock transition here, that is a huge high percentage type spot, because you can see there, that rock transition right there goes to gravel. It's actually probably a muddy clay type gravel, and that's it. I mean, the rest of this bank really does not appeal to me, and probably doesn't appeal to the fish that much. But right there, you can drag a jig, work a crankbait like a DT6 or a shallow crankbait. Sorry, I made it all blurry. You could work a lot of different baits, Ned rig or anything down that transition, and that's probably going to be one of the biggest hot spots on this section of this creek. But as you can see here, we talked about how this doesn't really, that like gravelly, clay area doesn't really have any key differences. But even over here, it's pretty much similar, type chunk rock, boulders, shale throughout. So there's not a lot of changes. Right here in the middle here, you've got, that nice vein of shale that probably extends into the water. So that's another transition that is going to be a high percentage spot. But to me, the best high percentage spot is going to be right there on that edge, that drastic change. And, the common theme for bass fishing when it comes to like selecting the best areas always has to do with the most drastic change, whether that's a sharp, end to a weed flat where you've got that weed edge. That's going to be a key area. A point in some grass, or a pocket in some grass. The same thing goes for analyzing hard structures such as rock. Okay, anything that is very different from the rest of a shoreline or a piece of structure is going to be a high percentage spot. So other high percentage spots that I can see back here, we got some anglers fishing back there. You can see kind of transitions right here. This is a little bit of a point that it creates. That's going to be a key spot. Let's see if we can get it back in focus. So there's going to be a lot of these different transition banks. You can see over there, it kind of transitions back into some gravel, that sort of thing. But the biggest key is not necessarily like a certain transition from like gravel to big giant boulders. Like that doesn't matter as much. It just matters for there to be some type of major change from one type of rock or bottom composition to another. Okay, so it doesn't have to be like a certain type of rock that you're looking for. However, saying that, once you start catching fish on one type of rock transition, really, I've seen that you can run that pattern throughout a lake. Like for instance, I was fishing a pattern on Cherokee Lake a few years ago, where there was plenty of rock transition banks where you went from like little tiny pea gravel to big giant boulder, chunk rock, Martian rock, whatever you want to call it. And I really wasn't having much success on that. But there was a lot of fish to be caught on these banks that went from little tiny pea gravel to like baseball sized rock. And even though like I would have thought that the big giant boulders and chunk rock and big shale would have been the deal, it turned out that little change from gravel to baseball sized rock, softball sized rock, was kind of the key. And I think that was because the fish the smallmouth were kind of starting to think about spawning, and those were kind of areas that they really wanted to spawn on. So you just pay attention to the type of transitions that you're fishing, because that's going to be really, really important to your success, and be able to like duplicate it in different areas. So but anyways, a couple other things I want to mention about this is like, when you got a lake that fluctuates in level, being able to like isolate those key areas before you even hit the water is going to be a big deal. So what I like to do is I like to go on Google Earth, use my Navionics app, but Google Earth, especially if you can get Google Earth Pro on your PC or Mac, you can actually go back in time and go back and cross-reference different periods in time. So like in, say, June, this lake will be at summer pool. You're probably not going to see any of these rock transitions, because it's going to be covered up with water. However, you can go back in time and find some satellite mapping where it's in November or December or something like that, when the water is low at winter pool, and you can find those rock transitions without even being on the lake. So utilize technology. I think Google Earth Pro is a free app. I use it all the time for this. But cross-reference different times and different satellite imagery to find these areas. So anyways, just figured I'd do this video real quick, because I really think that this is a big factor to success, especially this time of year on this sort of lake that has just a lot of rock on it. So anyways, guys, let me know what you think about this topic. And if you have any kids that are in high school or college and want to fish a cool tournament, Brandon puts on a great tournament. It's always around this time in December, and it's always a lot of fun. So check this tournament out for sure. And other than that, make sure you guys like, share, subscribe if you enjoy the content. And I'm going to be seeing you out on the water. Trust the process.